In some ways, the song was a lot of both of that, because it was sounded like it was expertly recorded, expertly mixed, but they chose to keep those characteristics in, which I think is just a sign of maturity and a really good song. Welcome back, and thank you for joining me for another reaction video. If you are new, punch the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and you'll get alerts for these as soon as they go live. Now, we're looking at something new today, well, at least new for me. A group called Paradise Lost, who are a gothic metal band that formed apparently in 1988 in Halifax, England, which is a long time ago. Name kind of rings a bell, but I'm not really familiar with them, and apparently they are considered by some to be the pioneers of the death doom genre. Don't know what that is. Sounds intense and sounds like something we need to have a listen to. So reason I'm looking at them is on my feed, they had a song that was released, I think this year in May. So something newer popped up on my feed and I thought, let's give it a look. Be really interesting to see, especially with a band that's been around so long. So Paradise Lost, Darker Thoughts. Let's see what you got.
Drifting through loss, we escape from the cost of the pain.
That's really nice. Really subtle, really soft. You've got what sounds like your acoustic picking. It sounds like it could be anything, but it sounds like a old school like nylon string. And then you've got, as he started singing, the nice thing was as he started singing with like his really controlled subtle vocals, you had what sounded like a cello or like a strings introduced, a very deep strings piece, and it kind of just shifted the chord progression with him as he moved through his different lines. So I really like that. Gonna go back and listen again.
Drifting through loss, we escape from the cost of the pain.
Listen to some of the notes that are picked, how they're picked harder, or they're picked a bit clangy, if you will. And I like that there's those imperfections to it, that they didn't try and make it perfect, that they've kept it as close to kind of an authentic one-take piece as you can. I think it provides a lot of authenticity. And so far, the song's been about honesty. It's quite raw, it's quite pulled back, so that's really nice.
The healing through years so obscured by the tears and the strain.
It's filmed really well as well.
But this one-way street you're on, you'll never be fulfilled. And this one-way street you're on is gonna get you killed.
I love that. I was about to pause it to talk about the repetitive cycle of some of those dun, 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 dun. So as much as it shifts through the chord progression, it always finds that repetition, and it's quite powerful, especially with the kind of lyrics that he's singing and the way that he's doing his phrasing. I think it works really well. Another thing is just then the sound like a violin strings piece came in, so much higher, much sadder, a lot more character to it, and it's basically the song's evolving and building. Now, I know it mentioned it was a death doom genre, so I don't know where that is yet, but I'm suspecting it's going to be coming in. We still got about 5 minutes left of the song, so I think it's going somewhere. But I really like the way that this is built up so far. Very, very reserved.
Healing the loss so delusional, hollow and vague.
When it started out, the acoustic guitar was the primary outside of his vocals, primary sound, and now the strings are starting to take over.
Fear as emotionless dreams of the grave. But this one-way street you're on, you'll never be fulfilled.
Ooh.
And there's
I'm going back because those little dun 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 dun, they're basically hitting accents of what the previous acoustic piece was doing when I was talking about that end repetition, but they're doing it in a way that obviously is much more suited to the instrument that's playing it. That sounded really nice. Super delicate way that it's building, but very impressive.
Cheer on, you'll never be fulfilled. And there's one-way street.
He's got his layered vocals now.
Is gonna get you killed.
The layering of his vocals is actually much further back from the mic. Sounds really good. Let's go. Okay, I'm going back a little so we can run into this part now. That was, I kind of thought something like that was coming, but I didn't know it'd be that cool. He's basically, I get the whole Death Doom thing now. I mean, I still don't know the genre, but I'm starting to understand, I think, if they're supposed to be considered the pioneers, then I'm starting to understand what it is. This kind of screaming or aggression in his vocals actually is, when you listen to like a lot of core genres and hardcore music and stuff, there's a particularly low growl that a lot of guys do, and they do it to add variety to what they're doing. And he kind of stays there, which is very different, right? So he sits there as his pocket. That's kind of the main scream that he sits in. But the beauty of it, what he's doing there, is normally when guys go to that lower end growl, you lose kind of all clarity of what they're saying. Now, when it comes to screaming, it's not always easy to hear the diction and hear the phrasing, but he's still doing a very good job of articulating through that. And it's also down to a very good recording. But yeah, very impressed. I like that. The other thing that's nice is the strings continued, even though the guitar's picked up. I think it's really nice to keep the beauty of that stripped back first piece and keep it dragging through the song, because it's like this resonance of that kind of previous section. Be interesting to see if they go back to that or not, but yeah, it's good. Listen to now like how there's going to be more, just before I stopped it, there was a lot of vocal layering happening. It's super interesting. I want to hear that again. It just shows you how your ears can be tricked. There's actually not vocal layering there at all. Not that I can hear. That's the lead guitar. And it's because they're hitting such a similar frequency that it sounded like there was someone almost, I want to say, screaming a note behind him. And it's just, that's the beauty of music, right? You can make a lot of things sound like a lot of things. It's very smart. Okay, so that effect that you've got there, that the guitar's doing, that dun 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 dun, it's kind of palm muted. What it sounds like, it almost reminds me of a didgeridoo when it's almost about to get going. And basically, the one way that you can create that is, obviously you're going to need a drive on it, and there's probably some other effects in terms of the reverb, but it sounds like it's got a phase on it. And when you when you add a phase effect to music, basically phasing is inverting. Can be inverting frequencies, and actually phasing can cancel out frequencies. But if you do it just right and you don't phase it completely, then you end up with this kind of spacey effect that you're hearing like there. And that's just one way to do it. So I'm not sure how they did it, but I quite like it because it's added some character from the heavier bits going into basically a middle ground between the prior bit we heard in the beginning and what we've just heard now. Really thick layer in there, it's really nice. Nice to see that acoustic repetition piece we spoke about, which then transformed into the strings in a slightly different capacity. It's nice to see that that's kind of your layer that's filtered through the majority of the song so far. I like when a single idea is good enough to translate throughout an entire song and kind of pop its head up where it's necessary to be a nice throwback or to just remind you of where the melody came from. It's really pretty, actually, considering how intense this kind of genre is. Awesome video. Yeah, there is layer in there as well. So that was really cool. I like that. I always like when guitarists clearly have an ability to play something magical, but you use a lot of restraint because the song calls for it. And I think they did a really good job there in terms of what he did. It sounded like he had a wah-wah pedal going, so he was like slowly tweaking it to bring up more like high end and make it less MIDI. But he did a really nice called for, if you will, solo with that. But what's really cool is straight afterwards he built a little repetitive melodic piece into that, which kind of forms a bit of a bridge in a way, because it starts transitioning out of solo territory into a lead piece, which is an active now separate part of the song. So I thought that was really nice. That bass, such a drony effect. You know what? I'm a fan of that. It's not my kind of like genre necessarily, that in terms of vocals. I think it's quite intense, but I like the way it was formed. I like the message. I like the ability. They clearly know what they're doing. They've been around a while and they deserve any success they get. But I like that. Even at the end, just something as small as that, a violin or cello, whichever string instrument it was. And that's the difference between synthing strings and then having an instrument at the end there where the bow started pulling. And when you start releasing pressure from an instrument like that, when you're taking a bow across anything, cello, violin, fiddle, whatever, the minute you start releasing pressure, you lose control of the bow's friction on the strings, and sometimes it can start to bounce, and that's when you heard that kind of like wobble to it. And I love that they kept that in, because that's character. It's just things don't have to always be perfect, and in some ways the song was a lot of both of that, because it sounded like it was expertly recorded, expertly mixed, but they chose to keep those characteristics in, which I think is just a sign of maturity and a really good song. I enjoyed that. Let me know if you did. I hope you did, and if you guys know of them, please, any history or any other songs you'd like to hear, that would be really handy as well. So I appreciate you guys as always, and yeah, Paradise Lost. I'm glad I looked at that one. That was really cool. From a recording music point of view, big fan of that. So yeah, until the next one, please be safe, be nice to each other, and have a damn good day.